my gosh, I got the job. So if you've been following my vlog, YouTube channel, you know that I've been up for a big job, and it was being strung out for so long that I kept talking about it in past videos. Anyway, finally got the news yesterday that I got it. And so that leads me into the topic for this video, which is artist reps and big illustration jobs. Okay. So the job that I got, I can talk about it a little bit, I guess. It's a children's book, but it's for a company. I can't tell you which company it's for. It is being used as a marketing piece for a product, which is kind of weird for a children's book, but it's a really fun subject matter, so it's going to be fun to do. Plus, I'll be making more money than I've ever made on any job in my 23 years as an illustrator. And my biggest two jobs were almost paid the same. They were an M&M Mars campaign, Halloween campaign, and for all the candy in the sales in the U.S., continental U.S., and also a game for Hasbro that they paid insanely well. And this is more money than most people, well, it's more money than a lot of professionals make in a year, I'll put it that way. And I think one of the reasons why they're paying is because it is a pharmaceutical company. Anyway, that's about all I can say about that. But I think I'll have about 2 or 3 months to work on it, it looks like. And it's going to make things really busy. I had talked about, for our online classes for SVS, doing summer critiques. That's gone out the window now, and I'm sorry about that. But we will, I promise, we will be doing critiques. In fact, I can't say this for sure, but we're probably going to do critiques in conjunction with our children's book class, and we'll have an announcement on that next week. Okay, so I have a few points that I want to talk about on this one. Why did I get the job? I was up against 4 other people. At first I was up against 2 other people, and we didn't know. There was 2 other people from my rep, and then there was one more person that was not from our rep and we didn't know about. So, and I had gotten, anyway, so, and let me just say this. I know how bad it is to lose the job, and I really feel bad for those people that didn't get it. I have, like I mentioned in other videos, there was a time where I missed out on getting almost every job that I was up for. I would get the bad news and get told that I didn't get it. I'm just reading off my notes here. So there's 2 reasons why I think I got this. No, let's see, 3 reasons why I got this job. The first one is that my artwork is what they were looking for. It was in the realm. There were also the other people that I was up against. Their artwork was really good too. And when you're paying the kind of money that this client's paying, they have access to all the best illustrators in the world, people that are way better than me. But what they're looking for is a certain style, a certain look. Beyond that, the thing that they're really looking for, and I can promise you this, is because it's going to be a long project. There's a lot of back and forth. There's actually a middle client that works with the main client, and so there's going to be a lot of back and forth. And if you've ever managed, I mean, even if you've been a manager for a fast food or for a retail store or something, when you're working with someone that's hard to work with, or even if you've worked in an office, working with someone that is hard to get along with makes your day go really slow. I try to be very easy to work with. When the client asks for things, I don't say, no, that's a stupid idea. I mean, you'd be surprised how many people are hard to work with, or they don't do what they say they're going to do. You know, there were 2 rounds. I know I'm repeating myself from the other videos, but there were 2 rounds of test images that they were paying for, and the first round. Let me go back for just a second and say what the 3 reasons are, because a lot of times I'll say there's 3 things and I only get to 2 of them. The 3 reasons are I had competent work that they were looking for, matched the style. 2, I was easy to work with and personable. And 3, I went the extra mile. So that's where I'm kind of leading in with this. So when they asked for a bunch of different sketches, when they asked for specific things on a list for the test images, I did about 3 times as much work as they were asking for. They were asking for black and white sketches with some value. I gave them a full-on color sketch as well, and I explored the characters that they were asking and gave them many more sketches than they were asking for. When I got past, when it became me against this other guy that was in England, when they eliminated the 2, and then I was just up against this other guy, they told me directly the reason they picked me instead of the other 2 were because of how much work that I did. I'm sure the other artists did really good work. I just really wanted this job. I mean, it's a big boost of money, and money's always a good thing to have. It helps with stress, helps you do all kinds of things that you need to do. It'll help me do more projects that I want to do. So I decided I was going to really go for it. I wasn't going to just leave it to chance. I was going to lay all the chips on the table and just go as far as I could. And if they didn't choose me, then it wasn't because I didn't work hard enough. It wasn't going to be me because I didn't follow directions. It wasn't going to be me because I was hard to work with, or I just acted like I didn't care. In fact, the drug that they're advertising is actually a drug that my wife and son had been on with their illness, and I debated whether or not I should even bring that up. But then I thought about it, and I thought, if it works into a conversation naturally, I'll do that. Cheap shot, maybe, but it really did hit home that I was actually working on the exact same disease that my wife and son have, and that's what this project is about. And so when the conversation went that way, I actually just said, it's interesting that this hits close to home. My wife and son have the same thing, and they've been on the same drug that we're advertising for, and they thought that was pretty cool. Did that help me get it or not? I doubt it. I mean, I think that in the end they're looking out for their own best interest, but the thing that I think it did do, if anything, was let them know that I was gonna not be a weird guy to work with. That I could hold a conversation, that I could be personable, that it wasn't just all business. And I think a lot of times new illustrators get on the phone, if you ever get on the phone at all. In fact, I know I've said this before. I'm going to say it again. As soon as I had the phone number for the client, for the art director, instead of just emailing them back, I called them. I talked to my rep, and and I got the phone number and everything, and I said I want to call them. A personal contact endears you. If you can talk on the phone, and I know this generation is like the younger people today are like texting and all that and stuff, and guess what? I've learned how to text too. But when we live in such a cold world with technology, I think given the choice, given the chance, sell yourself. It's no coincidence that early on in my career, when I was showing my portfolio in the Washington, D.C. area, I got a disproportionate amount of jobs that I actually was able to go in and talk to an art director. It's because we humans have a flaw. We like working with people that we know. I feel like, if anything, I bet you they talk to me more than they talk to the other artists, because I instigated that, and I called probably 3 or 4 different times, talked to them on the phone, and it's easier to work with the known than the unknown. If the other people never talk to them, then I definitely have a leg up, probably, because they probably felt like they knew me a little bit better, like it might go easier. And the fear of working with someone weird is a pretty big fear that we all have, whether we want to admit it or not. Okay, enough of that. I thought I'd also mention my rep is Illozoo, ILLOZOO, Illozoo. And I have been hard on reps in prior videos on this channel, and so you might be saying, if you've been watching for a few years, you might be saying, well, now Will was saying that you don't necessarily need a rep. Why does he have one? And that's a great question. And I think I have some good answers for that. In the past, historically, artists, I would say, needed a rep. There was a time where you really needed a rep. And the reason for that was you couldn't be in LA and New York at the same time. Before FedEx, this is going back a ways, okay? Right when I left school in 93, FedEx was hitting its stride, but people were able to use FedEx really easily in 93. It wasn't like it was just fledgling. I mean, it was really going well. When I got out of school, the idea of living wherever you want to was new. So when I moved back to Utah, a lot of people were like, "Oh, how are you going to get work?" That was in 1995. People were saying that, and I would explain, well, direct mail. You can overnight stuff. In fact, you can Delta Dash stuff. You can get stuff same day if you're willing to go to the airport. That's old school. That's old news. That was before the internet, before FTPing, before just file transfers and all that. So back then, you needed to have a rep. Today, with the internet, you can put your stuff online, and if you're really good and if you work your style up and people really like it, you can have an amazing amount of viewers, followers, friends, whatever you want to call them. And you don't have to be a big name. You can have them. So let me give you an example. I have a student who graduated last year. On Instagram, I've barely scratched the surface of Instagram, and I've probably really only been posting regularly for a few months, maybe 6 months or something like that. I don't even have 2,000 followers on Instagram. One of my students he's bumping up on 80,000 followers. His name's Adam Manoa, and he does really good work. I mean, so his work is really good. He's really approachable, really friendly. Hi, Adam, if you're seeing this. That's the kind of world we live in. And Adam has more followers on Instagram than a lot of the illustrators that I would have put in the top 10, 20, even 50 illustrators in the whole world. And I know a lot of those guys, friends with a bunch of those guys, have hosted some of those guys at our university, have gone and gone out to dinner with some of those guys, and they're just barely getting on Instagram. They're just barely starting to get on social media, and they don't have anywhere near the following that Adam does too. So the world that we live in, back in the mid-90s, those big shot illustrators, they'd put their ads in Workbook and Showcase. Those are source books. They're gone now. They're dinosaurs. They're out of here. But they would take out ads in those books, or take out ads with their reps, and they would buy double page spreads. They would get prominent placement in the books. They'd be with a prominent rep, one of the top reps in the world, and they would always just stay on top. And now we're living in a world where somebody can come out of school and a year later have 10 times as many followers and activity and people seeing their work as the guys who were at the very top. So it's a very different world. So when I have been critical of reps, or saying that you don't necessarily have to have one, it's because you don't. And I can give you plenty of examples, but there is a video that I made about reps specifically. So if you want to learn more about that, you can go and check that one out, because I talk about more specific examples in that one. You don't have to have a rep. However, my advice is kind of a mixed bag. It's kind of a gray area. The biggest jobs sometimes, often a big client would rather work through a rep. They have this feeling that, and maybe there's some old school stuff going on there, but it seems to me like they'll find a talent pool and they'll say, give me 3 of your guys, or 2 or 3 of your guys, and then maybe they'll go and check out another rep. Maybe it's a time saver for them. I think they also feel like if you're repped, you've probably been around. Oops, my computer's trying to shut down on me. If you've been around for a while, you're going to be better at understanding the process, and they're not going to have to teach you as many things. And if they go online and they just find somebody right off the internet, maybe they're going to get somebody that's brand new and that's unproven, and maybe there's some of that. And so in that case, not having a rep, maybe it costs you and it takes you out of the running for some of the bigger jobs. But I also know a lot of people who have gotten some really big jobs without a rep. And so, and I just got a month before, well, 2 months before this, I got a big job with Random House, and they didn't go through my rep. I don't think they know that I'm repped. So, and that brings up another point. Let's see, I want to jump into, I want to jump into, I think I'm going to skip one. That I don't have a contract with my rep, and I didn't have a contract with my last one either. And most reps are going to want to force you to have a contract, and I'm sure this is going to create some good discussion in the comments. This is not a right or wrong thing. I'm not saying you should never have a contract. I'm not saying you always should have a contract. I think that there are pros and cons to just about everything. The reason that I don't have a contract is when you meet a rep, the first thing that they're telling you is how wonderful you are, how they think they're going to be able to make money off of you or from you because you're so wonderful and because you're so good. And, you're exactly what they've been looking for, and your style's unique and all. And then but I need you to sign this contract. And then when you look at the contract is stating things like, if something goes wrong, I'm protected. I'm being the rep. I'm protected from you. If something else goes wrong, item number 2, if something else goes wrong, I'm protected from you. If item 3 goes wrong, I'm again protected from you. And when you get to the bottom, there's nothing in there that says you're protected from the rep. So it's like, hey, we meet for the first time. You're so awesome and everything. Now sign this agreement that protects me from you. And I think that's like the reason that that artists have been willing to take that is because typically you sign a contract with a rep when you're starting out, or when maybe you've had a few years, 2 or 3 years, and you're so excited to have a rep that you're willing to sign almost anything just to have the rep. It's like anytime we sign boilerplate, it's because we want this thing, and the contract is kind of in the way as a barrier. That's a bad way to start a relationship, in my opinion. It's a bad way to get what you want, is to be willing to sign away your rights. And I could tell you, in the other video, I tell a bunch of horror stories from artists that have had to stay with their rep for many years after they broke the contract, because it's written in there that you're not allowed to get your own work and stuff like that. And then just there's tons of things in there. Though a typical one that I did want to talk about in this video, and I actually got somebody emailed me this week and asked me about reps, and so I hope they're watching, because I'm going to answer your question too. And I'm sorry I don't have that in front of me, and I don't have your name. But one of the things that they do is they will have you fill out your house accounts. So they'll say every job that you get that has to come through me. So let's say someone contacts you directly, then you have to turn that client over to me, unless you've written down the name of that client as a house account, somebody that you've been working with in the past. Well, if you're new, you don't have very many of those. You don't have a ton of people that you've been working for, and if you did, you probably wouldn't be looking for a rep. So, and the rep knows that, So the idea is, you really can't, for most contracts with reps, you really can't go after your own work. Now, some people might be saying, well, then what's the problem with that? Well, the problem with that is, what happens if your rep isn't getting you work, which is, and unfortunately, I'm just going to say 80 to 90% of people that are repped do not have regular work. I'm just going to say that right now. If anybody wants to contradict that, now that's a guess. It's a guesstimate. My glasses are dirty. But I'm fairly confident that it's about that. And I've been told that by certain reps before, who have leveled with me and said 10% of my client or my talent pool is busy at any one time. 10%. And that's a big rep. This is a national, well-known rep. Everybody knows who this rep is. 10%. So now that doesn't mean that some of the other artists aren't getting work or aren't working on something. But if you have one or two small jobs, that's not enough to, keep you. If you're not busy throughout the year, it's hard to call yourself a freelancer and to quit a job. So a lot of the same rep told me that over half of her talent pool has a full-time job, has a regular job, and does freelance on the side. So anyway, I have not. I don't sign a contract. I don't want. If it means I can't have a rep unless I sign the contract, then I'm not going to have a rep. The relationship I have with mine right now is a good one, I think, because it's like, you bring me something. If you have a client that wants to use me, you take your percentage. It's a decent chunk, and you will have your percentage. I'll have my percentage. I'm going to do my best to satisfy that client. You're going to do your best to make sure that the transaction takes place. And you, as the rep, have facilitated a website and promotional materials and set this up so that the client could find you or find me through you. So, you deserve that percentage. But as far as me sitting at home twiddling my thumbs, waiting for you to call with another job, I'm not willing to do that. I'm not willing to lay back when the internet is begging for people to see your work, and like I said, these up-and-coming artists have amazing followings. I mean, if you follow the artist Lois Van Bartle, she's got millions of followers. I mean, and she's a fairly young woman, and comes out of school, has a style that really resonates with people, and has this amazing following. And she does not need a rep. The internet has been very good to her. Or she was very smart, and she put her work out there. Her work is phenomenal, and that's why she's getting paid. So when people ask, do I need a rep or not? If you don't, if your artwork, that's a weird question. If your artwork isn't good, then a rep's not going to want you, and you're going to want a rep, but they're not going to want you, and the internet's not going to reward you either. So your work has to be really good for either the internet or for a rep. And if your work is really, really good, then you don't need a rep as long as you're putting your stuff online. I think where the bottom line for me is that the rep can expose you into areas where you can get jobs that wouldn't have normally come to you. But again, at what cost? I don't have any problem paying a percentage to a rep because they're incentivized to get more money. The more money they get, or the more money they charge the client, the more money they get, the more money I get. That makes sense. Where I do have a problem is not being able to work when there's downtime. So that's kind of the bottom line. And I think that I've covered everything I wanted to do in this video. So that's it. I'll see you on the next one.